Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Loud Silence here at Check the Gate. Tonight, I'm very happy to be joined by the brilliant Norwegian pianist Leif One Andsnes, who happens to live not so far from me, here in Bergen, Norway. But due to the current coronavirus situation with social distancing, we are both sitting safely in our respective homes. And I know Leif Ove is usually practicing his piano at this hour, so let's see if he has time for a little chat after a while. Hey!
Hi.
Sorry to disturb your practicing. What are you practicing
on? I have a bit of technical difficulty as well, but it gave me a little bit more time to practice.
What are you practicing today?
I am practicing Beethoven.
Beethoven, okay.
Opus 109 Piano Sonata, which is very, very comforting right now, I have to say.
Yeah. How is it for you to practice these days? I mean, what about your motivation? Do you have like daily exercises you will do anyway, or have you started to practice for 2021, or how do you feel the difference from practicing now and just half a year ago?
It's complicated, isn't it? Because it's the worst thing about the situation now is that we don't know when we will be on stage again. And I've never had a situation like that. I took when was it? Almost 20 years ago, I took a sabbatical for half a year, actually. Almost half a year, 5 months. But I knew that, I had certain pieces to learn and that I would play 5 months later. And I worked with that goal in mind. But now, people are saying maybe we will be on stage in 2 months. I don't think so. This is huge. I mean, this is a big change. When it comes to the practice, I find that the only thing that really motivates me now is to practice something new, something which I don't have a concept in mind immediately about, but something that I really would love to learn for the future.
Yeah.
I understand that there's an echo from I might just use these plugs.
Oh, I heard you perfect. Oh, no, oh yeah, it's even better actually. Yes, it is.
Okay.
Well, I can really relate to this. It's as you say, it's difficult to know when is the next performance and to have the motivation for something particular. What do you think will happen to our?
And for you as a conductor, I mean, isn't that? I mean, that must be really difficult because I have an instrument. I'm here. I can hear the sound. I can feel it. It's physical. But when do you see an orchestra again? I mean, that's.
When do we see an orchestra? It's a tough question. Yeah, I mean, there's not so many daily technical things we can do as a conductor. It's not so common to stand and conduct a little bit in front of a mirror just to keep busy.
But you can read the score.
We can read the score, and we can study. Can still memorize musical study and keep positive. What do you think this whole thing will change our business, Leif Ove, or do you think in a few months? So. In which way do you think?
That's just very difficult to tell, but I don't see us coming back to the same. I don't know. Maybe, I mean, so many borders will be closed for a long time. Maybe it will lead us into more local oriented careers. I mean, I hope to be playing again in New York and Tokyo and so on, but I can imagine, and maybe that's somehow the development we should be going anyway with environmental problems and so on. That we should think more of our local heritage, and at least to a certain extent. And I think this will happen very naturally now in the first months and years anyway. and there can be something good in that for Mother Earth, of course, and so I think there will be big changes, and obviously, I mean, I worry a lot for single individuals, but also institutions that are really struggling now. We are in quite a good position in Norway with a lot of government support for our orchestras and other institutions, but yeah, I see so many that are struggling, and especially abroad.
Yeah. But talking about, you mentioned that you had a little break a few months ago. Do I recall correctly that something happened to, was it your left or right arm? You had been, to be specific, on tour with Harold Blomstedt. You had been performing a lot of Brahms' first piano concerto, which is a very demanding concerto. Yeah. You started for the first time in your career, and you were playing for, like, at this level for 35 years. And for the first time, you felt that your hands gave you a sign that they were tired, and maybe it was time to take a break. How did you? I mean, it must be a shock when it happens for the first time.
Yeah, I mean, it sort of happened over a while, and when I think back, there were signs that I should have taken more clearly, and thought, oh, what is happening? Physically, what is my body trying to tell me? But I got some therapy, some massage, acupuncture, whatever, and was okay again. But then suddenly, after this big tour I was doing with Brahms' first piano concerto and Statskapelle Dresden, that I felt that I was not okay. It was in my elbow around there and triceps, and I got a lot of treatment and thought I was better. 2 weeks later, started playing a few recitals with a big program. And then after the third recital, I woke up with real pain. I was in Frankfurt, and I was supposed to go on playing more recitals, but I had to stop. I had to go home, and for the first time in my life, I had to stop playing because of a physical problem. And it led me into a very interesting journey. I felt really lost. I mean, for a few weeks. And then I got contact with really interesting therapists and people who could learn me things about anatomy. Maybe it's time when you're 49 years old that you're learning something of the physicality of your profession.
Yeah.
So and what you have to deal with. So.
But are you fully recovered now, you feel? I mean, would you accept another tour with a 10 Brahms 1 in 2 weeks again, or would you?
I think so because I've also learned a lot, but I have to take care all the time. I'm now doing exercises. I'm sitting in a different way when I'm playing. I'm also technically doing things different. So I'm much more aware of what I'm using to achieve tension and everything in the music. So it's been a really interesting journey, and I feel things now and then still, but I know how to deal with it, and I'm not afraid of it anymore. And so yeah. I mean we all have to. Yeah, we have to listen to what the body tells us, and we have to take care to stay in shape. I mean, we are not getting younger, any of us.
Talking about not getting younger and talking about being 49, Leif Ove. Tomorrow, how old are you then?
Oh, well, I'm one year older.
It's only 50.
You can do the math. Yeah.
So, what I mean, 50 years old tomorrow, and you've been. When did you start your would you say your touring career? 14, 15, 16 years old or something like this?
Oh, no, I was 18. When I say, I mean, I did a few things before that, but not so much. But from the age of 18, I've traveled a lot, and there was a period when I was doing, 110, 20 concerts every year, maybe a 15-year period. When I was 40, I became dad for the first time, and I decided to do a little bit less. I'm since then doing maybe 75, 70 concerts a year. But there's been a lot of concerts.
Yeah. But it's also time, I think, turning like, even though 50 is nothing today. I mean, our generation might live until we are 1900, but still, it's a cornerstone in a way. And if you should look back, I mean, you had so many great. I mean, Sri Lanka was one of your teachers, and I'm sure you have many other who have taught you a lot of things. Would you mention one pianist who have inspired you, dead or alive? You would say have been especially important to you in your learning process through these years.
Well, I mean, my two main mentors has been Gigi Linka, who I studied with in Bergen from the age. I met him when I was 15 and studied many years with him. It was very inspiring to me, and it was really important for a shy young boy from Western Norway to meet somebody with a Slavonic temperament like that, and to see what that music meant, life and death. Later on, I also met a wonderful man, Jacques de Thiège, a Belgian piano teacher that I've kept in contact with, and who's an amazing mind, and I've learned a lot from. These are main figures in my development as a pianist. When it comes to pianists, I've changed my taste a lot. When I was 19, 20, I was crazy about Svatoslav Richter. I was even part of a sort of quite weird fan club called Friends of Svatoslav Richter, where you could every month receive a bulletin, a magazine, and cassette tapes with the weirdest recordings, from somebody sitting with a microphone in their hat on the last row in Bucharest in 1957, in a whole Szymanowski program or things like this. I mean, incredible. And I listened with such passion to this, and I felt that Richter was really my man. I mean, everything spoke to me. Later on, I have to say I changed really my taste, and I still find some amazing things from Richter, but also the pianists like Dino Lipatti, who died much too young, Arturo Benedetti Michelangeli, so many. I mean, Rubinstein. I mean, looking at Rubinstein and also thinking how to play the piano. I mean, this man played as natural when he was 92 as when he was 25. So it's a great thing to be part of a pianistic tradition and to have these amazing role models.
Yeah. Is it any particular from your own career? Is it any particular from all these years on the stage? Something you would mention that made particular impact on you there and then, or maybe for your life after?
Many things, of course, and I think one has a tendency to remember the very early things, right? I mean, I remember my debut recitals I was doing when I was 74. You were supposed to have a sort of official debut. And I played 4 concerts, the last one in Oslo and the first one in Bergen. The first one in Bergen was in the Grieg Museum in the small hall there. And it was the first time really I played a recital where I felt I really had prepared everything and I could give all, and I felt the audience was really listening to me. There was such an intensity in the room, and I couldn't sleep that night. I was just sitting, just looking into the wall and thinking, what did I experience now? It was so overwhelming for me. This feeling of communicating something so deep, to be able to do this, and the passion of it all. was so amazing. And then, of course, later on, I mean, when I started my career and milestones like my first time at the Proms when I was 20, or Berlin Philharmonic being 22, and my first Carnegie Hall recital, you know, a few years. I mean, all these things, of course, I remember extremely well. But I have to say, I remember as well some very intimate personal things. And I started very early being interested in chamber music. And when I was 23, I joined as one of the artistic directors of a chamber music festival in Risør, in a small village in southern Norway. And there are concerts there, which I can recall, you know, both from stage and from listening, that have made such an impact and have been so important for my life. Yeah. So big important things and the very small personal things go hand in hand.
But now, having had this little break when you had your problems, you had to resolve your technique and things. Do you feel? I mean, I remember when I was much younger, and you had this kind of Norwegian Grammy prize. It was like an annual thing that you would win the classical award, and you would be on video, on video from New York or from London or somewhere. Did you at any point, for us just watching this from the side, it seemed to be of course it was a lot of hard work. It's never easy, but did you at some point take this success for granted? And now having you become a father, you reached an age where you have to look more after yourself, your technique and your body. Have you experienced another joy? I mean, when you play now, or to a feeling of not taking everything for granted. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and also, I mean, I don't. It's difficult to know about development if it's getting older or if it's becoming a father or I mean, there are so many things that fills your life and your being and your music making. But I do feel that I have a different enjoyment now, a different freedom on stage. Actually, that there are moments that are happening that I can enjoy something unexpected, and that there's time and there's silence and there's drama and there's charm. You know, when I was 20, I think I wanted, you know, I was very determined to be a Richter-like, very serious pianist, playing very fast and very slow, and you know. And it took me time to experience all the different aspects of this music, like music by Mozart or Schubert, for instance. It took me much longer time than to really feel than the music by Schumann, Chopin, or Rachmaninoff. So I don't know if I took things for granted, but I must say that I enjoy even more to be on stage now. Maybe I'm less of a control freak in
But you mentioned these composers you've been working with over so many years. I mean, for not so long time ago, you were recording the Beethoven concertos, and you were touring the whole world with them. And I think you are in the process of still for a major Mozart project. Is that right? Mm-hmm. And lately, you also started to play the piano concerto by Edvard Grieg again, which was one of your first concertos, right? When you played in the beginning of your career. Mm-hmm. When you come back to these masterpieces, especially like the Beethoven concertos, which are in the corner repertoire for every major pianist, do you feel when you're doing that kind of a big project that this is it? Now I finally have to summarize what I've been doing for 35 years and to find the version. And how much does this impact on your studying on it? I mean, do you feel that, or do you feel that it's just a part of a process? Like when you return to these concertos in 10 years, it's natural to be on a completely different place than you were today.
Well, one thing which has helped me to focus on certain repertoire through the years, because it's difficult as a pianist. You have such endless choice. I've never been somebody who played everything. You know, I always wanted to choose and to I felt I needed time to go in depth, to be able to go in depth. And But I mean, recordings have been important for me to be able to have a goal in mind. So I remember when I was 19, I had this conscious thought that, you know, I would love one day to play and to record all the Beethoven concertos and all the Rachmaninoff concertos. And between the age of 30 and 40, I did record all the Rachmaninoffs and the last years also all the Beethoven. So I have at least done that, and these projects have focused me and focused the development, and then of course after such a big project as I did with the Beethoven concertos, I played them endlessly for 3 years. Then now I feel, even if this is the Beethoven year, I need a little bit more time before I come back to that.
Yeah, but how much do you feel that your interpretation changed from the beginning of restudying them for launching this huge project? Yeah. and through the process, did you feel like, yeah, I knew it in the beginning, or did you notice in the end that why didn't I do that from the very beginning? That's very often my feeling when I do a work for the first time, and then I do repeat it, and if I'm happy to lucky to do the same piece 10 times, then why didn't I know all these things from the very beginning?
That's it's very true, isn't it? It's funny. It's like sometimes I'm picking up a piece which I did when I was really young, and I think why did I find it so problematic? it's so self-evident. Some things now, and that's the joy of becoming older and a little bit wiser with the years, isn't it? But I find it really interesting to pick up something which I haven't played for many years. Let's say a big sonata or a big concerto. When I sit down at the piano and I look at the music, if it's a complicated score, I might think, oh my God, I have to study this from scratch again. It's really not in my fingers. And I play through it slowly, a few pages, and then I go back and I start playing it again. And it's like my brain has picked up a file and just put it in the right place. And then I'm starting on a much higher level. And I find that so fascinating, how the brain works, how it's just kept it there somewhere, hidden, and it seems like new music at the very first glance, but just touching it is a neurological memory, I think, at the finger, in the fingers. It sort of comes back, and I think, oh, I've been there, I've done this, and then because that's amazing to me. And then of course the whole process of the music making, that you feel that a piece breathes in a different way and is becoming more organic, and you know where to take time and where to drive it, and all these kind of things which one was struggling with the first time one was doing a piece. I'm sure you recognize that. It gets a different breath when you're coming back to a piece and you work with a piece for many years. I mean,
but in your working process, I mean, now the last few years, I mean, we Conductor should be very lucky if we get to work with you, because you started to conduct more yourself. And obviously, doing that, you also have to study the whole score a lot. But I imagine you have always studied the full score of the concertos. And I would, but how much time when you are studying a concerto for not conducting it, just for playing? How much time do you spend with it only reading? Just studying, the silent studying, to just call it that?
I don't know. It sort of comes from the playing. Also, I cannot say when I've played concertos that I've known at any given time what the second clarinet is doing, but of course I've been really, and especially now I'm not a conductor. I'm really not a conductor, but I'm leading chamber orchestras, wonderful chamber orchestras sometimes, in classical concertos. And I would not go further than Beethoven. I mean, that's doing Beethoven 4 and 5th was as far as it goes for me in this setting where you sit in the middle of the orchestra, you sit with the audience, back to the audience, and the lid of the piano, and with the orchestra around me.
Yeah.
And then you have really direct contact. We hear each other extremely well, of course. And I have found that there are passages in concertos. I'm thinking of Beethoven, for instance, in the first concerto. If you remember at the end of the first concerto, there's a very tricky passage, in the winds with passages going up and down in the piano.
Yeah.
And I remember first time I did that in the setting, sitting in the middle of the orchestra, it was no problem because they could hear me so well.
Yeah,
and these kind of things. So there can be advantages in this setting. Though I love to play with conductors as well.
Yeah.
So, but it's also, it gives me a feeling that I'm part of the narrative all the time. You know, in the concerto, you can sometimes sit there and wait for I mean, in Brahms' first concerto, you wait for 4 minutes before you enter it. You know, and if I'm leading then a chamber orchestra, I'm in the storytelling of the music all the time, and that can be a wonderful feeling when it works.
Yeah. It obviously works fantastic. I've had the pleasure to hear it so many times. And also one thing I find very fascinating about accompanying you is that the way you listen to the orchestra is so extraordinary. I have the feeling that you know as much about the score as anyone in the orchestra, and it's really such an easiness to accompany you, and this leads me to the next question. I mean, do you feel that this playing conducting thing has opened you to a different world in terms of communicating with orchestras, also for major romantic works, which really needs a conductor, or did you always have this chamber feeling with the big orchestras?
I don't know. I guess it has made me even more conscious of the conductor's role, basically, and I mean, you know, how important it is to breathe together and all these things. But I've always found it a little bit strange, this categorizing between the different forms of music making. I think everything is about listening to each other. It's about proportions between the voices. Also, when I play solo, when I play a Beethoven sonata, it's so often written as a string quartet with different voices. And one comes up, one goes down, all these things. I'm playing chamber music with myself. And if I play Schumann concerto with the orchestra, it's chamber music. I have to accompany the clarinet, the cellos, you know, as much as I have to also be a soloist. Of course, I project in a different way. The sound has to project. I'm playing with 50, 60, 70 people. So I project in a different way than if I'm accompanying a singer, let's say. But it's the same it's the same world for me. It's the same music making. And I would never miss any of these forms. I find it very strange that some pianists, for instance, don't do chamber music or don't do lieder, don't do songs. I mean, I could never miss that part of the repertoire.
But isn't it a little bit like you've been doing a lot of concertos that you miss playing by yourself to do recitals? I guess it's a little bit like the grass is always greener on the other side. When I've done a lot of symphonic concerts, I would love to do some more opera again, not being on the focus on the stage and just hiding in the pit. And after a few months of only working with difficult singers and horrible directors, now just kidding, then you miss having and rotating orchestras. Then I would love to go back to on the stage and just have one orchestra for 4 days and do a concert and go home.
Well, we're lucky if we have a choice. Let's put it that way.
Talking about recitals, would you like to play something for us in the end, or a little chat? What?
I can play a few seconds of because I'm just so in love with. I've played quite a few of the Beethoven sonatas, but I've never played Opus 109. You know, there are the famous three last sonatas are Opus 109, 110, and 111. And I played the last two, but I never played Opus 109. And a week into this Corona crisis, I was just sitting, you know, fiddling with things, and I just thought of this, and I played this theme of the second movement, or the last movement, and I started crying because there's something about Beethoven's music which is so healing. It's so strong. It's really, I mean, he said from heart to heart, and that's really how it is. I find when I'm, you know, in difficulty in life or doubting about the world or what's happening or in my own life, Beethoven's music is that's where I can find some comfort. So okay, I'll play a few seconds.
Yeah.
I'll take out these plugs because I don't think the sound is, well, it's not so good in any case probably, but especially with the plugs.
Yeah.
To be continued.
Thank you so much, Leif One. It was so nice to have you
Thank you.
here on
It was
Loud
great
Silence and Check the Gate. Ciao.
Take care. Ciao.